series of public events honoring the life of Hugo Chavez, who succumbed to cancer on March 5, 2013, are taking place throughout the country. During a televised event, current Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro said that Chavez's fight for a more just and democratic nation did not take place in vain.
2 years since the passing of Comandante Chavez. At 2 years, we can say, Comandante Chavez, your struggle has been worth it. Your sacrifice, your efforts have been worth it. Your struggle has not been lost, nor will it ever be lost. Your people are here, standing up united, working. Your armed forces are here, and your homeland is here. We continue to protect our homeland, Comandante Hugo Chavez.
On the second anniversary of Chavez's passing, Venezuelans are also expressing what the larger-than-life political leader has meant to them.
Comandante Chavez was like a teacher. He was practically an ideological leader. He was the one who taught us how to love our country, to love our grandparents and our historical leaders like Simón Bolívar and Antonio José de Sucre. These were the leaders who really care about the people.
Now, community members are working to solve their problems. We meet in assemblies and we look for mutual solutions. Ideologies aside, unity is what Chavez left us. He inculcated in us a sense of unity, and we reflect this in our communities every day.
In the 15 years since Hugo Chavez initiated the Bolivarian Revolution, social investment has shot up 61%. This includes free education and healthcare. Unemployment has also been slashed by 2/3, and over 30,000 grassroots community councils have been created, giving residents direct access to the executive branch for support of local development projects.
José Bernaola and Fernando Alemán have been in a committed relationship for years. They are in their 30s and describe their partnership as mature, happy, and healthy. Because of their bond, they have decided to join demonstrations in support of legislation to allow civil unions between same-sex couples.
We would be able to ask for a loan together in a bank. We would be able to share our insurance. But from an emotional point of view, it would be one step further. We have been together for 5 years now, and I think that as a couple we're ready to move forward, but we are not able to do it here. So I think emotionally it would mean a lot for both of us.
The couple explains that they feel lucky their families at home are very supportive of the relationship, but it is hurtful they cannot share their happiness in civil society. They join a vigil to pressure Congress to approve civil unions, but Congress is also considering an alternative titled Solidarity Unions. Vigil organizer Pilar Rojas explains why participants support civil unions instead.
We want equal rights, and Solidarity Union does not recognize that me and my female partner, for example, are a family. It doesn't recognize that we have a relationship with feelings, and based on that, we want to build our life, and that is what thousands of families want.
The Commission on Justice and Human Rights of Congress will be considering both proposals on March 10th. However, they have decided to vote on them without a debate. In contrast, supporters of civil unions want an open debate and for the issue to be sent to a general vote in Congress. Reporting from Lima, Peru for teleSUR, Rael Mora.
The room may have looked packed, but at least 50 Democrats didn't show up. At Benjamin Netanyahu's address to Congress on Tuesday, the Prime Minister of Israel criticized and warned of the dangers of a U.S. nuclear agreement with Iran.
If the deal now being negotiated is accepted by Iran, that deal will not prevent Iran from developing nuclear weapons. It would all but guarantee that Iran gets those weapons, lots of them.
On the same day that Secretary of State John Kerry continued talks on the so-called bad deal, protesters outside Congress called Netanyahu's bluff.
We've been hearing year after year after year the Israelis say, Iran is about to get a nuclear weapon. But Israel has hundreds of nuclear weapons. They won't sign on to any non-proliferation treaty. They won't allow any inspectors. They won't even admit they have nuclear weapons.
According to recent data, a majority of Americans view Netanyahu in a positive light, and 23% say they don't know who he is. But for Jewish Americans, the Israeli leader's actions hit too close to home.
When he proclaims that he speaks not only in the name of his criminal state of Israel, not only in the name of this heretic anti-Jewish religious state of Israel, but he speaks in the name of all Jews worldwide, is truly insulting.
The fact that House Speaker John Boehner invited Mr. Netanyahu without approval from the White House is a first in U.S. history. Analysts say Netanyahu views himself as part of U.S. politics.
This is a way of shifting the debate, shifting the focus, and pretending like the main issue, which is Israel's ongoing war crimes and human rights abuses against the Palestinians, remains off the front pages. So it's been a very nifty trick.
Nifty and strategic, as Netanyahu finishes up the last 2 weeks of his campaign for a third re-election as Israel's prime minister. His words against Iran won't reach just the American people. Voters at home will also hear him loud and clear. Alexandra Hall, teleSUR, Washington.
The Colombian National Development Plan, which is supposed to set the policy framework for the next 4 years, has turned out to be underfinanced. According to economist Mario Valencia, the budget presented by the government was entirely miscalculated.
A budget of 790 billion Colombian pesos that they calculated was based on economic assumptions that are far away from reality. For instance, oil prices calculated at $84 per barrel, coal at $75 per ton, when the ton is actually at $65. They also assume an economic growth of above the 4%, when everyone have estimated that the economy is not going to grow more than 3.5%.
For opposition Senator Jorge Robledo, the government also assumed rapid growth in the agricultural sector and industry, without taking into account the drop in oil prices that indeed affects the national economy. Robledo said the Ministry of Finance has been warned about the miscalculation since December last year.
But they insist in keeping the budget like that. And just a day before officially submitting the National Development Plan, they had to cut it by 90 billion Colombian pesos, which is huge budget reduction. However, the development plan still has a cost that does not correspond to reality.
Among the budget cuts, 70 billion Colombian pesos were cut from education, health system, and job programs, issues that are crucial to eradicate inequality, especially when the country is expected to move into a post-conflict period.
Calculations on the cost of the post-conflict have been already made. Some claim that 10 years of post-conflict could cost around 200 billion Colombian pesos. It is clear that the current National Development Plan will not contribute to a post-conflict period.
As Colombia's peace talks advance in Havana, Cuba, the National Development Plan appears to be far away from aiding the construction of peace in Colombia, and especially far away from eradicating the inequalities that have been at the core of the more than 50 years of armed conflict. From Bogotá, Natalia Margarita, teleSUR.
At the opening of the judicial year, the Supreme Court of Argentina released a video reminding different publicly known victims of several homicides. The video included deceased prosecutor Alberto Nisman, contradicting the evidence of the investigation, which leads to the hypothesis of suicide.
What happened with this video is that from a while ago, the Supreme Court, through its Information Center website, have come to the realization that they have a powerful communication tool. Through this, the court can put forward its opinions, as it always has, because the judiciary branch does not always express itself verbally.
In recent years, many judges and prosecutors have made questionable decisions because they have prioritized attacking the government of Cristina Fernandez.
Thinking that the judiciary branch is something homogeneous, tight, always acting apolitically and according to the written law is naive. And what we can see these days, and these relevant rulings show more than ever, is that currently legal discourse is just one of the social discourses that force us to rethink seriously what is happening in society.
Historically, it has been that in a Republican state, the judiciary branch does not interfere in politics, but the current situation in Argentina goes against this concept.
No matter what our political ideology is, what we cannot do is hide it, so we have to act according to an ideology. We live in a society, we live in a world, we have political, religious, ethical ideas, and those ideas show through in our judicial activity, our statements, whether acting as advocates or as a prosecutor.
Despite the dismissal of the charges against Cristina Fernandez decided by Judge Daniel Rafecas, the prosecutor Gerardo Policita decided to appeal the case, leaving it in the hands of the Court of Appeals, which has a clear opposition bias to the national government. From Buenos Aires, Laureano Ponce, teleSUR.
According to a report written by the former Commission for the Reform of the Public Security System and several NGOs that work in human rights, the cleanup process of the police force that started in 2012 has been a complete failure.
Millions have been spent on this process, but there have been no results. We haven't seen them. It hasn't been effective. We see many police involved in criminal activities, and if there had really been a cleaning up, what is happening to these police?
Less than 15% of the police were submitted to toxicology tests and financial evaluation, meaning 1,814 agents of the total 12,000 agents. Of the police evaluated, 200 were proven to have connections with crime, but none were fired or punished, only transferred. The only firings that took place had to do with age and physical condition.
We can see that the cleanup process of the police was at first just an internal conflict among high-ranking officials to control power within the police. Some police were fired, but only those in the lower ranks. The whole process, instead of improving the image of the national police as a public force able to prevent crime, has instead weakened the institution even more.
The evaluation process still hasn't looked at the higher-up officials, with the government spending more than $7 million with no results. The report demands the government change its strategy and begin a real cleanup process as a fundamental step to regaining security in the country. Gerardo Torres, teleSUR, Central America.